Thank you, Ms Noakes. It's Ms Noakes. It's an absolute pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And I thank the Honourable Member for Hendon for bringing this debate and all those who have spoken today. The potential of the people of Nigeria to shape our world for the better is enormous. But that potential is being shattered by terrible violence with increasing frequency and scale. The fear and chaos even risk the political stability of Nigeria, one of the most important partner countries for us. Many of us represent wonderful Nigerian diaspora communities, so we have a really vivid sense of these links and the benefits that's on offer. But at the same time, we hear increasing concern from constituents worried about the safety of their families and terrified for the beautiful country which they love. And we've heard about some of the atrocities that have been perpetrated on the people of Nigeria, and perhaps the worst attack of all was in Owo in 5th of June, which has taken the lives of 41 churchgoers to date, with 17 still in hospital. And I want to reiterate the Labour Party's solidarity with the victims, their families and their communities. As colleagues have mentioned, there have been other targeted attacks on religious sites and leaders, and we need to see this all in the context of wider conflicts and violations of religious freedoms for Christian denominations and for others. In January, there were 571 instances of kidnapping and 314 killings of people reported in Nigeria. The majority were in the northwest, particularly at Niger and the Zamfara states. Much of the insecurity is affecting mainly Muslim communities in the north of Nigeria. And I think we need to be very clear that insecurity is affecting people across religious, ethnic and geographic lines in Nigeria. We need to support healing and peace building, and that means not fueling narratives that are being used to stoke up further hatred and violence. And I hope that with the Minister we can send a unanimous message of solidarity with all the Nigerian communities struggling in the face of this insecurity. So, Nigeria is a named priority in both the government's integrated review and in the international development strategy. I hope we're going to hear more from the Minister about what fresh work is being done to put that priority into action. What strategic assessment have we made of whether the forms of support within the security partnerships are the right one? Are they at the right scale to make a real difference? I note that the security partnership is expanding to include programming on civilian policing and civilian military cooperation, desperately needed. But when it comes to UK aid, the cuts were brutal. Funding for bilateral Nigeria programmes was cut by more than half last year. So there have been specific requests for more assistance with tackling the drivers of insecurity, and does the department have the resources to meet them? How will we manage the sensitivities of the pre-election period while hopefully ramping up our support for security in Nigeria? How are we working particularly with Niger and Chad on some of the big cross-border drivers? I know the Minister will rightly talk about the work being done as part of the Lake Chad stabilisation strategy, but frankly the geographic scale of this has expanded. It is alarming to read the Security and Defence Partnerships communique from February and see northeastern Nigeria highlighted constantly. I'm sure the Minister will recognise that the security challenges of recent months have primarily been in the northwest and the Middle Belt, and I hope she'll be able to say a little bit more about what coordinated cross-border work is planned to address the drivers of insecurity. The drivers aren't new, they won't go away overnight, and we have to face the fact that climate heating is creating intense conflicts for dwindling resources like water and fertile land. And this interacts with religious and ethnic differences which mirror the divide between farming communities and often nomadic herders. At the most basic level, people struggling to survive are more vulnerable to recruitment by armed groups, not just terrorists, but bandits. The UK has a role to play in supporting the Nigerian government to provide an effective response. And I believe that we need steady peace building, enabling the state to build public service provision, in marginalised areas, and above all, enforcing the law and protecting people. We really have to be conscious of what happened in Guinea, Mali and Burkina Faso and the risk to democracy when security deteriorates. There is promising leadership against insecurity, especially in Niger, and I'd like to hear how we are getting behind those efforts to expand and adapt those more effective approaches. We know that independent, proudly African, human rights respecting, democratic states can provide real security for their people, but we need to support states in demonstrating that against the challenges they face. So surely that's a task. Because if there isn't success in that task, we're likely to see more military coups in the region, more terrorism, more frightful atrocities and more humanitarian disasters, more exploitative interference by Russia. And if that happens, the enormous promise of Nigeria risks being lost, and UK interests will woefully be damaged in the process. So let's work together to stop it.